Ok, mis niños, aquí estoy de nuevo, lista para leer. Vamos a empezar, creo que este ya es el capítulo 13, Broken Heart. So we're gonna start Breaking Through by Francisco Jimenez, and I believe we are on chapter 13, which is titled Broken Heart. Así que vamos a esta, por favor. Okay. I did not have a lot of free time to make close friends and to do things with them on weekends. Papa allowed us to go out only once a week, and we had to be home by midnight. I did meet many nice classmates at school, and some of us hung around together at lunchtime in the cafeteria. Most of them bought their lunch, but I always brought mine from home. I asked Mama not to make taquitos for my lunch because a few guys made fun of me when they saw me eat them. They called me chile stomper or tamale wrapper. I pretended not to get upset. I knew that if they saw me get mad, they would make fun of me even more. So Mama made bologna sandwiches instead. I ate jalapeno chiles with my sandwiches to give them flavor. I also made friends, many of them girls, at school dances, which took place after football games or basketball games. Because we had to work, Roberto and I usually skipped the games on Friday nights and went only to the dances. They were held at the school cafeteria, and like the vet dances, the girls stood on one side and the boys stood on the other. I thought it strange that some boys drank to get the courage to ask girls to dance. I spent more time on the girls' side, dancing one song after another. The faster the song, the more I liked it. Listening to music and dancing made me forget my troubles. At one of the dances, I saw Roberto standing on the side, next to a girl who was slightly taller than he was. I did not think anything about it. The room was warm and stuffy, so I walked out to cool off and to get a drink of water. When I returned, my brother was dancing a slow dance with that same girl. I watched him as they danced past me. He caught my eye and moved his cheek away from hers. They were swirling around. I saw that he had his eyes closed. At the end of the song, they strolled across the floor, holding hands, and stood on the side, away from the crowd. I did not want to lose sight of them, so during the next fast song, I purposely moved closer to them, swung around, and bumped into Roberto. Sorry, I said. He gave me an annoyed look. The girl I was dancing with did too. As the song was about to end, I quickly walked my dance partner back to the girl's side, thanked her, and raced back to the boys' side, where Roberto and the girl were standing, holding hands. What do you think you're doing, Panchito? He whispered, placing his left hand on my left shoulder and digging in his fingers. His large hand was like a vice. Nothing, I said, wincing. I just lost my balance. Roberto sneered at me. The girl stood behind him, looking around the room, pretending not to pay attention to us. She was slender and had short brown hair, large droopy brown eyes, a small mouth, and thin lips. Well, I said, gesturing to him to introduce me. Roberto let go of the girl's hand and moved to her side. Susan, this is my brother. Hi, she said softly. You and my brother are good dancers, I said. She smiled and blushed. Roberto continued dancing with her until we had to leave. The next day, I saw them together at school between classes. On our way home from work, he told me that he had asked her out to the movies for next Saturday. That means he won't be able to go to the dance Saturday. I was disappointed. Roberto and I did everything together. I did not like the idea of being apart. Don't worry, Panchito. I can drop you off at the dance before I go to the movies. Wouldn't you rather go dancing, I said? I insisted. No, I'm going to the movies with Susan, he said sharply. I was so upset with my brother that I decided not to go out at all. I stayed home that Saturday night and tried to study. but I did not get much work done. Roberto was happy all day at work on Sunday. He whistled and sang while we cleaned offices. You must have had a good time last night, I said, still feeling hurt because he didn't go to the dance. I did, and I think I'm in love, he exclaimed. Sure? After one date? Are you crazy? I know it's weird, he said, but I have this strange feeling. It's hard to explain. He placed his right hand on his chest and added, It's like nothing I felt before. I can't stop thinking about her. I liked seeing my brother happy, but I was upset that we weren't going to dances together anymore. Roberto continued going out with Susan once a week. Eventually, he asked her to go study. She wore his jacket at school as a sign that she was his girl, but it did not last. Going study. Esme, do you know what that means? Fanny? A ver, Juan, what is going study? It's an old term. En esos tiempos cuando decían, oh, going steady es como decir que ya son novios, es lo que está diciendo. Así que él le pidió que fuera su novia. Como digo, en esos tiempos lo que hacían era que los muchachos tenían su chamarra así de la escuela, las muchachas lo usaban. Era para un gesto para mostrar que no, que esta muchacha es la novia de este niño. Pero como dicen, no duró. Okay. Ya me perdí. Okay. One rainy Monday evening, when Roberto came to pick me up from work, he looked weary and sad. What's wrong? I asked as we drove home. Susan's parents don't want her to go out with me anymore, he said teary-eyed. Why? I asked, putting my arm around him. Because I'm Mexican, he said, raising his voice and hitting the steering wheel with both hands. Because you're Mexican? What do you mean? Roberto took a deep breath and explained. Well, Susan invited me to dinner at her house last Saturday. She said her parents wanted to get to know me. I was very nervous, but once we sat at the table and started talking, I felt better. During the conversation, her father asked me what my nationality was. Why did he ask you? I said, recalling the time I met Peggy's parents. He wanted to know where my name Jimenez came from, I told him. You didn't tell him. No, I didn't tell him I was born in Mexico, he said, anticipating my question. But when I said I was Mexican, there was dead silence. After a while, we continued talking, but they seemed uncomfortable and less friendly. I thought it was strange, but I didn't think much about it until Susan told me today at school. She couldn't stop crying. I felt terrible, Roberto choked up. Her father even promised to buy her a car if she stopped seeing me. Can you believe it? A ver, ahora qué pasó. ¿Qué entendieron ahí? Así que Roberto fue a la casa de la niña. Ella lo invitó de ir a su casa el sábado a la cena. Los papás lo querían conocer. Y ya les empezaron a hacer preguntas. Cuando le dijo que era mexicano, pues ahí cambió la cosa. No les gustó para nada de que ella andara con un muchacho mexicano. Y le dijeron que ella no podía seguir con él. El papá hasta le ofreció un carro a la niña para que dejara de verlo. Para que vean lo que es el racismo. Then, like a flash, it became clear why Peggy stopped seeing me. I felt angry and insulted, but most of all, confused. I could not understand why anyone would not like us because we're Mexican. Mama told us everyone was equal in the eyes of God, and Papa told us we should respect everyone. Ahora, si recuerdan, en los capítulos anteriores, Panchita estaba saliendo con una niña, Peggy, y le pasó lo mismo, nomás que Panchito no se dio cuenta de lo que estaba pasando. Si recuerdan, cuando fue a la casa de la niña, también hicieron preguntas y todo, y ya después tampoco le permitieron a Peggy que anduviera con Panchito. Así que la misma situación. What are you going to do? I asked after a long pause. She still wants to go out with me, but doesn't want her parents to know, he responded. I don't feel right doing that. Roberto went out with Susan a few more times, but it was not the same. My brother picked her up at her friend's house, where she told her parents she was spending the night. He did not like to be sneaking out, and when her father found out she had been lying, he did not allow her to go out at all. Eventually, she started seeing someone else. My brother stopped dating for a long time. Voy a seguir con el siguiente capítulo, ¿ok? El siguiente es Behind the Wheel. The summer at the end of my sophomore year, Roberto taught me how to drive the Santa Maria window cleaner's van on weekends. I started my lessons in the parking lot behind the gas company. The van and I did not get along. Every time I got behind the wheel, it jerked and sputtered. When I applied the brakes, which I did every few feet, brooms and mops ended up on the front seat. My brother's patience got shorter and his prayers got longer as I drove around in circles as if we were on a merry-go-round. I perfected my right turns, but the rest of my driving skills needed a lot of work. When I finally took the exam for my driver's license, I got 100% on the written section, but barely passed the driving test. Once I got my driver's license, I was anxious to drive any car other than the DeSoto. The car had been in a wreck. The windows on the driver's side did not close at all. Did not close all the way. The front door was smashed in and did not close either, so we secured it with a rope. I begged Roberto like a child to let me drive his Buick. He often gave in, but one time, when he did not, I got mad and yelled at him. Papa heard me. What's the matter with you, Panchito? He said angrily. You can't yell at Roberto. He's your older brother. Apologize. I am sorry, I said, lowering my head. Why don't you give him the keys to the DeSoto, viejito? Mama said to Papa. You mean the DeSoto viejo, Trampita said. It's not that old, Papa said. It still runs. Like a turtle, Trampita responded, laughing. It's Panchito's speed. Knowing that Trampita and Torito hid in the back seat so their friends would not see them in the DeSoto, when Mama drove them to school every time they missed the school bus, I said, I'll drive you to school in it tomorrow. Trampita made a face. I knew he liked to drive in my brother's car. Sometimes he and Torito would get up extra early to ride to school in the Buick with Roberto and me. But no one liked the Buick as much as Roberto. It was his pride and joy. He took care of it though it were a part of him. He washed and polished it once a week and dusted it every day with a rag he kept underneath the front seat. The interior was spotless. His high school friends who worked at an upholstery shop tucked and rolled the dashboard in exchange for a record player cabinet my brother would make in woodshop. On the side of both fenders, Roberto installed a 6-inch chrome pipes in 3 portals and strung tiny white lights underneath the car frame. He took a broken portable record player that someone had thrown away, fixed it, placed it on the floor of the front seat, rewired it, and plugged it into the cigarette lighter in the car. He played records on it when the car was parked. Next to the gas tank door, he painted a small skunk with a sign above it that read, Little Stinker. I tried to convince him not to do it because I thought it was silly, but he ignored me. I like it, he told me proudly. Besides, it's my car. Papa must have liked it too, because he did not say anything about it to my brother. Most of the high school guys who had cars decorated them. On Saturday nights, they cruised up and down Broadway, showing them off and dragging when the police were not around. Roberto did not have time to cruise, but he took pride when people gawked at his car. My joy of going to school with Roberto in his Buick and driving home with him after work ended with Mike Neville asked me to clean the Western Union every morning before it opened at 7 o'clock. I was tempted to say no because I had to get up extra early and drive the DeSoto. But Papa taught us never to turn down work. Besides, we needed the extra money. After I cleaned the Western Union, I would drive to school, taking side streets so that my classmates would not see me. I would park the car several blocks from the school, behind the country fairgrounds, and walk to class. One day, Roberto passed us as I was walking out of the fairgrounds on my way to school. I looked the other way, hoping he did not see me. The next morning, he got up at the same time I did. "Why are you getting up so early?" I asked. "I'm helping you clean the Western Union." "You are?" I exclaimed, smiling ear to ear. "This means, yes, give Papa the keys to the DeSoto. You won't need them." After cleaning the Western Union, Roberto and I drove up Broadway to school just like before. The little stinker decal did not bother me as much anymore. Ok, ahí voy a terminar estos capítulos. Mañana sigo con otros dos.